Hello. So, which was the last book that you read? Perhaps there are a lot of books that one must read, but I'm going to talk to you specifically today about a very interesting book, one of my favorite books of all times. It's called Ikigai. Ikigai is a book which is based on the Japanese philosophy of longevity, and it also talks about living a happy and contented life. So without any further ado, let's get to understand what is Ikigai and why is it important for us to try and replicate the philosophies mentioned in this book for a happy and successful life overall. So, Ikigai basically, as I said, is the Japanese secret to a long and happy life, written by Héctor García and Francesc Miralles. Now, Ikigai has been written many, many years ago. However, the learnings from this book never get old because they're applicable to all of us. And that's precisely the reason why we must try to use them in our day-to-day context. So what is it that led to this book? First and foremost, Ikigai is a book, as I said, talks about health, healthy living, longevity, but it draws its inspiration from the people of Okinawa in Japan. So Okinawa is one of the blue zones in the world. Just in case you're not aware about what a blue zone is, a blue zone is a place which is said to have a lot of centenarians, and Okinawa is amongst the highest number of centenarians that live there. So centenarians are people who live beyond 100 years of age. Now that sounds incredible. For many of you, it might sound unbelievable, but that's true. A lot of people who live in Okinawa live beyond 100 years of age. And that is where we need to decipher the secret and unlock the doors to this mysterious world and understand how can we try to replicate some of this, if not all of this. Now, some of you might say, I don't want to live beyond 100 years, but hold on a bit. It's not just about long living. It's about healthy living in totality. So there are a lot of things that are applicable to people from all walks of life, all countries, irrespective of who you are. So let's get to understand what these books talk about. So first and foremost, it's important to understand what is Ikigai as a concept. Now, Ikigai in a very generic sense, it may not be exactly the meaning in a Japanese sense, but in a very, very generic sense, it means a reason for being. What makes you get up from the bed and look forward to living your life to its fullest? And there are many things that make up for an Ikigai. There are four things predominantly. First is doing what you love to do. Now, many people love something in their life, but do you actually do that? That's a big question. So doing what you love to do is a very, very important thing. That is the core concept of Ikigai. Then you also are good at it, which means it's not just sufficient that you love something, you are exceptionally good at it. Of course, it's a journey. You don't become exceptional at something in a day or two, but the fact is you are good at it reasonably. The third is you can be paid for it, which means people are willing to pay a price for the product that you offer or the services that you offer, and therefore the world absolutely needs it, right? So Ikigai falls in the center of these four spectrums. First is what you love to do, then is you're reasonably good at it, and people are willing to pay a price for it. It's because people need it, right? So that's what Ikigai is, and that's the sweet spot that you want to be in, okay? So it gives you a reason for living and looking forward to life optimistically. Now, the first rule of Ikigai is keep moving. Now, that's very easier said than done, but what it means is a lot of times in our lives, we don't move often. Of course, there are some people who are followers of the 10,000 steps, and there are some people who tend to go to the gym and exercise regularly. But all in all, unfortunately, one of the biggest epidemics that we're living in today's world is the epidemic of sitting for long hours. Whether you're sitting in office or you work from home or you work from anywhere for that matter, people tend to sit for longer hours. And what that means is you are inviting a lot of diseases. And that's perhaps the reason why we say that sitting is the modern smoking. So Ikigai says, keep moving. You got to keep moving. Now, simple things that you got to do, like the Okinawans do, is to make sure that you keep moving for your work, which means even for that matter, when you take a phone call, maybe you walk and take your phone call, or for that matter, you spend at least 30 to 40 minutes every day in terms of taking walks in a nearby garden or a nearby park. But the whole essence lies in understanding the fact that movement causes you to think, movement causes your body to relax and rejuvenate itself, and therefore you have to be physically and emotionally active. And that's rule number one. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not as active as they need to be. Some of you might outright hate exercises, but that's okay. All you need to do is to ensure that there is a little bit of movement in everyday life. So every 30, 40 minutes, in fact, you can set an alarm for yourselves. Some of you might be wearing these wearable devices that remind you of the fact that you got to keep moving, but keep moving. That's very, very critical. And that's one of the reasons for longevity of the Okinawans, something that we can learn, especially those who live in the humdrum of city lives, something that you can easily practice on a day-to-day basis. Number two is flow matters. Now, this is interesting. I have met a lot of people in my life who often tell me that, you know what, I'm going to work very hard till I reach the age of maybe 45 and 50, and then I'm going to retire. Now, one of the reasons they say that is because they generally don't enjoy what they do, and therefore they want to quickly retire. Yeah. The whole concept of retirement is I've done enough of it. I don't need it anymore. I've made enough money. So now I got to retire. But the moment you retire, the problem is you have nothing left to do. And that's where you lose your flow. So flow basically is you love doing something so much so that you lose track of time, that you don't look at the clock or your watch every now and then, because you genuinely and deeply are interested in what you do. So ask yourself, are you really doing something that you love to do? Or is it basically because you want to pay the EMIs, the bills? Now, there is nothing wrong in that, by the way. But the fact is, unless you find something which truly triggers your internal mechanism, which makes you get up from the bed and do something because you love doing it rather than being forced to do it, that's the difference. And when you do something that you love doing, that creates a flow, which means you're in a natural state. You do something because you enjoy doing it. You have a purpose of doing it, and there's nobody to force you. So even if you don't want to do it, you can shut up your bag for a day, but you want to get back to it as quickly as possible. In a sense, work sounds and looks like vacation. So if you're doing something like that, you're very, very fortunate. If you don't have something like that right now, don't stop looking for it. Keep looking for it, because you got to be in your natural flow, and then you wouldn't have the worry of retirement, something which is a mystical dream for a lot of people. You don't need to retire if you have something that gets you into the flow. Number three is to connect deeply with people. Now, this is one of the most beautiful things that the book talks about. So a lot of Okinawans, who are people who are beyond 90 and 100 and even in their late 120s perhaps, these are people who have very, very strong social connections. Now, what that means is they have friends and they have family members that they can fall back upon. They have everyday conversations with people. They have been going with these people for work. Even after work, they tend to spend time with them. And that creates a social connect, a deeper connect. Now, when you have a deeper connect, how does that impact you and your longevity? Well, very simple. When you have a social connect or a deeper connect with people around you, you have a reason to live for. And that makes you look up to life from a very, very positive perspective. Now, ask yourself, do you really have deeper connections in your life? Now, when I say deeper connections, a lot of people come back to me and say that I've got 5,000 contacts on Facebook. I've got 8,000 on LinkedIn. That's not the connections that I'm talking about. I'm talking about a few connections which are deeper in nature, something that you feel very proud about. These are people whom you can call maybe 2 o'clock in the midnight. Not perhaps for party, of course. However, that's not a bad idea either. But basically, if you need their help, they're there to help you. Likewise, there are people around you with whom you can spend quality time. You love conversations with them. And one of the acid tests of making sure that you have people like this in your life is that when you're around them, you don't search for your mobile phone, because you love the time that you're spending with them. So time just passes like that. So deeper connections, deeper social connections are the essence of not just longevity, but even on a day-to-day basis, you live a very happy and contented life. So make sure that you spend some quality time with friends and family who really mean something to you. And then comes a very interesting, a controversial topic about eating. Now, I wouldn't say that, most of us tend to eat mindfully. Unfortunately, most of us do not eat mindfully. What that means is there is a lot of junk on our plate. And of course, there are a lot of people who are taking care of their health these days. But even otherwise, we eat too much. We eat just way above what is required. And that's one of the major problems causing chronic diseases, mental fatigue, exertion, procrastination, and whatnot. So am I asking you to stop or quit eating? Not at all. Of course, we all need to eat because we want to survive and we want to enjoy our life. So definitely do that. But there is a wonderful concept that the Okinawan people use, and it's called hara hachibu. Now, what does that mean? Listen to this carefully. So suppose, for example, you're eating something, and while eating, you realize that you are 80% full, that your hunger has been quenched to the extent of 80%. Stop eating. Because when you stop eating after a certain period of time, you feel satiated. You don't need to go beyond that. Unfortunately, a lot of people tend to push themselves when they are on the dinner table or on the lunch table. So very simple rule to remember is, let's say you have the capacity to eat maybe 3 rotis, you stop after 2. That's a very simple rule to follow. But what this does is it leaves some space empty in your stomach, which improves your digestion, which ensures that you're productive, and which also aids your movement. So a lot of people don't move because they're very lethargic. And the reason they're lethargic is because they're overeating. So eating mindfully is one of the things that the Okinawan people have been doing religiously for generations together, and that has yielded very high return on investment. So eat mindfully so that you can live longer and enjoy every moment of your life to the fullest. Last but not the least is to stay curious and purpose. And I think this in some way correlates to the previous point of flow that we suggested, is to have a strong reason for you to wake up from your bed. A lot of people do not want to wake up because they don't want to face life. And why is it that they don't want to face life? Is because life is scary for them, or life is uninteresting, and therefore they want to forget about all their worries, and they are cozy and happy in the cushion and in the blanket of their bed. Now, the problem with that approach is that you can't be there forever. And therefore, you need to have a purpose in life. And a lot of times people say, well, do I need to be very clear about my purpose right from the outset? Now, there is no such expectation, because purpose is something that you find out as you spend your life, as you spend more time in doing what you enjoy doing. You eventually happen to stumble upon your purpose. And there is no compulsion that you need to have only one purpose in life. Right? You can have multiple purposes, but having something in life which is beyond yourself. When I talk about purpose, the book talks about the fact that you need to have a purpose which is beyond yourself. It could be maybe helping people, it could be contributing to their overall growth, coaching or mentoring people, whatever that might be. But having a purpose in life will keep you in the game, which will make sure that you're always curious. And curiosity is a word that we often associate with kids. Kids are curious. They don't need a reason to ask a question. So ask yourself, how curious are you about your life, about the things around you, about learning something new, right? So whatever that might be, staying curious is the golden rule for you to ensure that you connect with yourself at a deeper level. So staying curious and having a purpose are absolutely critical and wonderful at the same time. So here are the rules in a nutshell. Okay, of course, there are other things that are written in the book, but these are the ones that I would highly recommend to all of you. The rule number 1 is to keep moving. Remember, movement causes a lot in your mind, in your body, so movement is indispensable. Number 2, flow matters. Enjoy doing something that you love to do and do that consistently over and over again, and that will bring in a lot of flow in the way you do things. Number 3 is to connect deeply with people around you. Now, these could be your friends, your family members, people with whom you love to spend your time where you don't have to look back at your watch. Number 4 is to eat mindfully. Remember, enjoy your food, but at the same time, be mindful about it. Remember the 80% rule of hara hachibu. Stop once you have filled your tummy for about 80%. And last but not the least is the rule of staying curious and purposeful. Find a purpose in your life, be curious about life, love everything that you do, and that will bring you lasting and sustainable satisfaction and happiness. So these are some of the rules that the book talks about. And of course, there are other rules that you can explore once you pick this book for yourself. Now, the question is, why should you read this book? Of course, there are many reasons. One of them is learning about longevity, learning about happiness. But one of the things that I found reading this book is that it helps you discover your own purpose. It makes you think, it makes you reflect upon your own life and ask yourself some tough questions. One of which is, do I really have a purpose in my life today? Number two is it's actionable. It doesn't give you philosophical knowledge. It gives you here and now practical, implementable steps that you can go back and apply in your everyday context. Then it also provides you a very good balance between your lifestyle and the way you live and in general, the way you spend your time. So it gives you a lot of remedies around that. It gives you a lot of ideas around that. So it helps you live a very, very holistic and balanced lifestyle. Number four, it will reflect upon how you're spending your time now, and it will remind you that you got to slow down in life. One of the things which most of us, especially in the corporate world, find very, very difficult is to slow down. In fact, we always talk about fast cars, fast bullet trains, fast life, fast this, fast that. And so that has impacted the way we live. We live on a fast lane, including fast food, of course. So slow down. Slowing down is absolutely quintessential. And that's one of the things that this book will talk about. And last but not the least, it's a very, very short book, simple and easy to read and implement. In fact, it's one of those books which you'll want to go back every now and then, maybe once in a year, of course, just to reflect upon and remember and remind yourself of some of the core learnings that the book has to offer. So those are some of the reasons, if not all the reasons, that you should look forward to reading this book. Now, I'm a big fan of this book, and I would recommend this book strongly to all of you, especially if you haven't read it. If you have read it long years ago, maybe here's another opportunity for you to go back to this book and read it all over again. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation with regards to the book review on Ikigai. Do share your thoughts. And yes, of course, if you found any value in this video, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends and family members. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you very, very soon. Bye-bye for now.